So let's go and watch this one. This is okay, we live in a country, right, that is supposed to have rules. There's supposed to be laws, okay? As far as I'm aware, that's how our country is supposed to work. There are laws, and people are supposed to be beholden to those laws. And one of the laws that we have is that the president is not allowed to unilaterally declare war on any country. Now, that law has been violated many, many times by multiple administrations, both Democrat and Republican, throughout the years. So it's really more of a suggestion than an actual law, but technically that is the law. And presidents who violate that law, I think you can technically use the the national security, argument or whatever, to get like a certain amount of time that you can engage in military actions that isn't technically considered war or whatever, right? Which is what Trump has essentially been doing. But we're about to reach that deadline, right? This video is going to go over that. But yeah, so we live in a country, we're supposed to have laws, and technically when someone breaks the law, you're supposed to, put them in jail. God knows that is not going to happen with this president. And the way that the way that Congress actually has decided that our country now works is that anybody can break the law and say that they're not breaking the law, and instead of throwing that person in jail for breaking the law, Congress will then create a new law that says, actually, no, for real this time, you're not actually allowed to break the law. Like that. That's how it's been. That's how we've been moving towards as a country. So just so people are aware, laws are essentially fake now. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's watch this video from BBC. Deadline reached for Trump to seek approval for war with Iran. BBC News.
Marks a deadline. It is 60 days since President Trump gave official notice to the US Congress that his war with Iran had begun. And under the legislation, which has existed since the
I didn't even know that he gave official notification. I thought that he just straight up did it and didn't send them anything. So that's news to me.
Vietnam War, the president is under obligation to withdraw US forces or seek congressional authorization to fight on. Right now, there's no sign the president is preparing to give way. In fact, all indicators point to the conflict resuming. US Central Command has just requested the deployment of hypersonic missiles to the Middle East to add to an enormous military deployment already in the region.
Yeah, so it seems pretty likely. Guys, I tell you all the time, this is the day. This is probably the day that we need your prayers to the markets. We need the markets. We need the markets to protect us over this weekend, okay? The markets have protected us faithfully for the past few weeks over this ceasefire, okay? And it's all thanks to all of your efforts out there as you pray to the markets that and do all of your, all of your market dances outside to try and keep the market strong. But I'm going to need a lot of prayers this weekend to the markets because it feels like this might be happening either this weekend or maybe next weekend. I don't know. Who knows? It's impossible to tell the timing. But if they're sending more missiles now, the good thing is America is only capable of producing about 20 missiles a year. So eventually we're going to just run out and not be able to do this anymore. It would probably be another 5 or 6 weeks of war, though, if that were to be the case. But yeah, I still, though, we don't need that death and destruction. OK, people, go out there. The markets need your strength.
In Israel, where the calls for a return to war are getting louder, the build-up is already underway. The Defence Ministry has talked about 6,500 tons of munitions arriving in Israel in just the past few days. Dozens of US fuel tankers are parked at Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport and at the airport in Eilat. These are pictures from February showing US Air Force stratotankers parked on the tarmac. The Pentagon says it is drawing up options for a short, sharp campaign to try and prise open the negotiations. But at what...
Okay. Iran, if you're listening, please take my advice. Because I gave you my advice last time, okay? And my advice was that when America wanted to end this, when they wanted a ceasefire, was that you should not take it and you should just keep keep the effort going until America ran out of missile interceptors. We got through about half of, like 50% of the missile interceptors in the last war in 5 to 6 weeks. Okay. So I'm telling you, Iran, do not let up for at least another 5 to 6 weeks. If they start this hot war again, do not let up for at least another 5 to 6 weeks. And if, depending on your situation, keep it going for like maybe another couple weeks after that, 8 weeks or so. That's all I think it would take, is another couple weeks after we run completely and totally out of missile interceptors, hitting Israel nonstop, like, multiple like massive missile strikes a day for 2-3 weeks. And I think that we will reach an actual, negotiated settlement, like a true deterrence provided peace, I think, is what you need to do. If you want to get like America off your back for good, or at least for, like maybe like 5 years or so. I don't know exactly how long it would take for America's belligerents to like forget how, forget the military deterrence that you have demonstrated with your capabilities. But I do think that that's the only way to get a relatively long peace in the region, is if Iran like keeps going past the point that America completely runs out of missile interceptors, which, like I said, will be in about 5 to 6 weeks if America decides to go back into a hot war in the same way that they did before.
Cost. The Pentagon says so far they have spent a conservative $25 billion on this war, and
way more. Way more. Never trust those numbers. I would guess it's at least 60, maybe even 100 billion at this point. They're always going to manipulate those numbers to make it seem like, and that's probably not even including the cost of like the actual missiles that we blew through. Like, that's probably just like, I feel like maybe operational costs or something. If you take into account how much money we are going to spend and how much money all of our pedo billionaires are going to skim off the top of the contracts that they make with the military industrial complex after this, like it is easily in the hundreds of billions of dollars. So that's way low ball. If anything, I would say put it at like 60 to 80. Even just operationally, I would say at least $60 billion. And then replacing all that shit is going to be hundreds of billions of dollars. And, it's going to take 2 decades to ever even build those interceptor stockpiles back up. And that's assuming that we're not in perpetual war in perpetuity, which it seems like America is really gunning for that direction as well.
Democrats are getting increasingly twitchy about where it goes next.
On Iran. Ultimately, I would defer to the White House and White House counsel on that. However, we are in a ceasefire right now, which our understanding means the 60-day clock pauses or stops in a ceasefire. You're not in. Yeah. It's our understanding, just so you know.
Okay, well, I do not believe the statute would support that. I think the 60 days runs maybe.
I knew that as soon as they had a ceasefire that they were going to make some bullshit argument like that. Yeah, that's whatever, man. It's not like they're gonna stop regardless of whether whether it goes past the statutory limit of what they're allowed to do under emergency authorizations or whatever. Congress is a joke, man. Our government, our system of government is a joke. Nothing matters. The only thing that has any power is the executive branch at this point. So like, whatever. It's the world we live in. I'm always like, it sucks that our system of government is so dysfunctional, but is somewhat designed to be dysfunctional. And so it's not going to change without a concerted effort, essentially a refounding of our country with a new constitution, a new I mean, you can use the old one as like a basis or whatever, but like essentially a complete refounding of our country where you have to get rid of the duopoly. That's what you need. You need like multiple parties. If it's parliamentary or whatever, you need multiple parties. You need like enforced abilities of maintaining money out of politics, which involves putting wealth caps on people. Like, people can't accumulate unlimited money and therefore unlimited like political power to corrupt all of these institutions to make them as like dysfunctional as they are. Like, there's so many things we would have to do, and it would be a complete redoing of our country, essentially. Yeah, it's a joke. Our country is a joke.
Tomorrow, and it's going to pose a really important legal question.
Also, where the fuck is that legislation that you were going to have on voting to like stop the war? Didn't the Democrats, weren't they going to vote on that? Like, the Democrat vote on war authorization. The Senate voted to reject a war powers resolution. Okay, so they have been voting on it, maybe. I would have to go, maybe I've missed some of that, but I would have to go look at what people are voting. But they should have voted on the authorization for the war, like before it even started, to be honest. The Democrats' names should have been on record before they even before the war even started, and it became an obviously political, toxic situation.
Question for the administration. We have serious constitutional concerns, and we don't want to layer those with additional statutory concerns.
Ultimately, the final decision is for the US president. It is not in the hands of the Israeli prime minister, though Israel strategically does seem to prefer a return to war than a deal. Israel and Hezbollah have continued to attack one another in spite of the ceasefire. Lebanon's health ministry says Israeli airstrikes in the south killed at least 15 people on Thursday. The US Embassy in Beirut has urged Lebanon to engage directly with Jerusalem, suggesting there is now limited opportunity to take advantage of the American mediation. Let's bring in our
It's never going to happen.
correspondent in Jerusalem, Yolan Nell. Does it feel to you like there is a groundswell now in Israel for this war to resume?
Well, we have had these comments from the Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz last night, where he said that Israel may soon be required to act against what he said were existential threats from Iran. And the Israeli media is saying that the country is on a state of heightened alert, preparing for a possible return to fighting with Iran. And in the background, these reports that President Trump has had his military options laid out for him by the leaders of US Central Command. There's a lot of speculation in the Israeli media about what the different options being weighed up could really look like, with suggestions that there could be a return to...
God, he just looks like Satan, dude. Like, if Satan was a person, this would be him. Like, Jesus Christ, man.
Strong, powerful strikes.
Nobody has looked this evil throughout all of human history. Like, I'm serious. He looks more evil than anybody in the entire world. He looks more evil than, like, I don't know, like Adolf Hitler, dude. Like, at least Adolf Hitler had that rad mustache. I'm just kidding, people, about the rad mustache. But, like, he does genuinely look like, I don't know, he just has that evil look.
Targeting Iran's energy infrastructure, government infrastructure, once again, trying to put pressure on Iran to make concessions in negotiations. There's also...
Dude, why are these people so insane? It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. How many times do I have to tell you? It's not going to work. Iran was in a better bargaining position when there was a hot war. What are you talking about? You're going to go back to war with them, and they're going to instantly be in that same better bargaining position yet again. And if Iran takes my advice and keeps going past the point of, like, America running out of missile interceptors, then they will be in the best bargaining position they've ever been in. This is insane. These people are crazy, dude.
The options being talked about the idea of special operations forces going into Iran and really targeting its enriched uranium, with all the difficulties that would pose. Also suggestions about ground forces.
They already tried that, right? With that dude who was allegedly over there that they tried to save. They tried to do, like, an operation to go get the nuclear materials. At least that's what I think was going on, because they had so many troops over there, and they failed, and they had to bomb all of their fucking assets. They had to, like, self-destruct, like, hundreds of millions of dollars of my taxpayer money, like in an inferno of fire, because they quote, like, got a little stuck in the mud, aka Iran peppered them with bullets and their stuff was inoperable. Like this, oof, my God, man. I genuinely don't know if behind the scenes, if these people are delusional or are as delusional as they portray themselves to be whenever they like do these, like come up with these strategies or present these strategies to the people. It's like, I can't tell. I feel like they are. I think that they are actually as delusional. Like they actually believe the shit, that the propaganda that they say, like that America is putting out there. And it's like, my God, man, this is going to be one of the most historic disasters, like even more so than any of America's others misadventures and the various countries that has failed to achieve its strategic objectives in, like Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. Like this is going to be one of, I think, potentially one of the like defining moments of historic defeat for American empire, is what it's starting to feel like, with how terribly these people are at like analyzing the actual realities of the circumstances that exist.
Possibly going to try to take control of part of the Strait of Hormuz to ease it up for commercial shipping, but no real decisions made as yet, and really everyone watching to see what decisions come out of the White House. It's interesting too, that report that she mentioned from Bloomberg suggesting that CENTCOM has asked for this hypersonic missile to be sent to the Middle East, potentially to be used against Iran. If that were to happen, it would be the first time that it had been used in active hostilities. CENTCOM not commenting on that.
I'm sure that's going to change everything, right, people? One more new type of missile is going to change everything for sure. Just like one more sanction, they'll collapse any day now, The
Iranians have signaled this morning, Ilan, that there will be a major response if the strikes resume. Has Israel had time in the interim to replenish what it needs to defend the country?
I mean, certainly this is something that the country has been preparing for, a resumption of hostilities ever since that sort of tentative ceasefire came into force. And it's very well known that, you know, things remain extremely difficult, that the Strait of Hormuz, this important pressure point, is still such a focus, and that President Trump may have to act soon. He's under a lot of domestic pressure. Certainly the feeling from many Israelis is that this is not a job that has been completed as yet. What Israelis have been saying consistently is that they want to deal with the threat from Iran in terms of its missile arsenal, in terms of its support for proxies around the region, and of course in terms of its nuclear program. And they do not.
And again, there's nothing you can do about it. How many times do I have to keep telling these people, man? There's literally nothing you can do about it. America was unable to defeat Iran. America was able to achieve those particular objectives that you just listed out with the full force of the American military. The only possibility is if America does an actual ground invasion, and it's probably not going to happen. So like maybe it will. I don't know. But even then, it's not even a guarantee that they would even be able to militarily achieve that then. So I don't know.
Not feel that has happened yet.
Ilan Nell in Jerusalem.
The only people more delusional in this than America is Israel. I don't know what Israel thinks is going to happen, man. Like, again, they're behaving the exact same way as Hitler during the Fourth Reich. Like, where, like, you just think, like, oh, if I just keep expanding forever, and if I just keep going to war forever, that somehow it's going to, like, I will actually achieve, like, I don't know, like, some sort of strategic, like, win at the end of this. Like, what? I just, man, it's insane. We live in an insane world.
Then from the United States, we can speak to the national security correspondent for the New York Times, Eric Schmidt. Eric, it's good to see you. What are you hearing about the plans that are being presented to the president?
Well, as your correspondent mentioned, the military has presented plans to the president. These are actually plans that have been in place for a while now. They're just kind of reminding him what's at stake here. The U.S. has 2 carrier strike groups in the region. They've been adding additional weaponry, as your correspondent has mentioned, in the event the president orders a resumption of strikes. But President Trump, by all accounts that we've heard...
Also, by the way, the fact that, like, The IRGC, I don't think wanted to get into the ceasefire. I think they agreed with me that it was a bad strategy to go along with this ceasefire. Broadly speaking, I do think the political leadership decided to do it. In general, I think for optics reasons, probably not particularly from strategic reasons, but for optics reasons with like the rest of the world, trying to show that you're like, you know. But by just acceding to the ceasefire, Iran, like America interpreted that as capitulation, even though America was losing the entire fucking time that like the hot war was going on, and Iran had incredible military achievements throughout the entire war. Immediately by acceding to the ceasefire, America interpreted that as capitulation. So that's why I think that the next time, like, please, dear God, Iran, I've told you every single time, you need to control the de-escalation. You need to be the one to determine whether the bombs stop flying, okay? That's the only way that you are going to like end up with some sort of lasting peace, like in the region. Or at least by lasting, I mean, you know, lasting by America's perspective, like 5 years of like not getting fucked with. You need to do that. You need to control, you need to say no. You need to say no when America says, okay, we need another ceasefire to rearm all of our proxies, and we need another ceasefire to send all of our missile interceptors over there. You need to say no, and that and continue bombing the shit out of them for at least another few weeks. Please just listen to me. I'm telling you, that is the only way that this is going to stop for a longer period of time.
Is very reluctant to restart the war here. He's worried that the Iranians still have thousands of missiles and drones left, that they could retaliate against energy infrastructure in the region and send economic and oil prices even higher. He seems to be leaning toward extending the naval blockade, but aides tell him that could take weeks or months to put the kind of pressure on Iran's regime that would yield results.
Indefinite. They could last with it indefinitely. God damn it, dude. I can't take it. It's like I'm joking. I say one more sanction. They actually believe if we just put one more sanction, if we put one more blockade, if we put one more, you know, economic chokehold on them, then they're going to collapse immediately. It's like, dear God, you've been trying to do that for 20, 30 years at this point, and it hasn't worked. It's not going to work this time. My God, dude.
Because the open question, obviously, Eric, is whether these further strikes would prise open what is already a difficult negotiation.
Exactly. And of course, the regime that's in power now is much more hardline, and even the regime that existed under the Ayatollah, the supreme leader before the war started. So by all accounts, they are digging in. They've used this 3-week ceasefire time to dig out some of their missile silos and to rearm themselves, move around some of their assets, and prepare themselves for what they think may be an oncoming resumption of attacks by the United States and Israel.
The president, quite obviously, is his own man, and nobody can really double guess which way he'll turn. But who is in his ear? Clearly, Prime Minister Netanyahu wants a resumption. There are strategic reasons.
The devil himself, President Netanyahu, is in his ear. I'm sure that's going to go great.
Why Israel thinks they need to go further. What about the council around him in the White House? Because Pete Hegseth, we know, is very confident. And then we have the Vice President, J.D. Vance, who has been leading the negotiation, who was opposed to this war.
A lot of nervousness.
I don't know what's going on with this audio here.
Now about the Senate, the mood is just very grim. I think.
Apologies. Yeah, I mean, within the cabinet, you've identified the key actors. Vice President Vance has made it known that he's very reluctant to continue this war, but the president has key options, people listening to him. These are people like Senator Lindsey Graham, retired General Jack Keane, who are urging him to restore the resumption of strikes. They say just 2 more weeks of concerted strikes on Iran's
2 more weeks. That's all it'll take. Dude, you can't wish cast your way into winning a war. Like, Donald Trump thinks that he can like bluster his way into winning a war. There's material realities that don't give a shit about your bluster, that don't give a shit about your rhetoric. The material reality is just that Iran has the cards and America does not. And America was shown to be much, much weaker than anybody ever anticipated them being when they went into this war. So, you can't wish cast your way into winning a war. That's not how it works. As much as like Trump wants it to be that way, just pretending like you have all the cards at all points in times is not going to lead to some sort of strategically better outcome. In fact, it's going to lead to a worse outcome, because you're going to get worse options for settlement as time goes on. At this point, the best option America has is just unilateral withdrawal, like just unilaterally like disengage and we are out of there. And then Iran essentially has de facto control of the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran is the new regional superpower. Like that's basically like our best option at this point. So, you know, whatever. These people are infuriating me this morning.